Preservation Commission of the town of Clarkdale. Are we ready? Okay. Very good. So we have the call to order, and may we have Planning Commission roll call, please? Or I'm sorry, Historic Preservation Commission called order.
Actually, you'll ask for your board, and then he'll request the board. That's what I was saying. He has to call his board.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the HPC to call to order. All right, so the next item is the roll call. Planning Commission, please.
Advisory member Johnson,
Present.
Commissioner Fouts, Commissioner Conk,
Present.
Commissioner Spence,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly,
Present.
and Chair DeBlanc.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, same thing. HPC.
Commissioner Westcott, Commissioner Snyder, Commissioner Mala, Vice Chair Stein, and Chair Gabbard.
All right, so now we're at public comment. The Planning Commission invites the public to provide comments at this time. Members of the Planning Commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431-01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Persons interested in making comments on a specific agenda item are asked to complete a brief form and submit it to the clerk or liaison during the meeting. Each speaker is asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes. Now, have you received those, or do we have any people that want to turn those in now?
I would like to speak. Nathan Porter, online.
All right. So, do we have a picture, or is the Zoom, can we get you on camera? I'm sorry, just be patient for a moment while we look to see if we can see you. And say your name again, please.
Nathan Porter. I live in Clarkdale.
Nathan Porter. All right. Thank you, Nathan. And you live in Clarkdale, right?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
I would like to urge the both commissions not to approve these changes, this amended plan. My understanding is that the Planning Commission did not originally approve the current windows that have been installed already. And I think I read the town's packet, and I understand it's going to make a difference economically for this place to open sooner rather than later. But you're really setting a dramatic precedent in a town that we call historic. We call it historic Clarkdale. But now the town staff, I don't know about the commissions, but the town staff seems to believe that the money that's going to come in is going to wash away any need to keep things historic. And I strongly disagree with that. Historically preserved areas have enhanced economic vitality. If you start allowing modern architectural elements in what's supposed to be a historic town, it's going to change everything. Why if you approve this, what's going to stop other businesses from coming in and creating whatever kind of architectural front that they want? Think about that. I urge you to reject this amended plan. If necessary, send it to the town council, have them debate it. I think it's incredibly important. It's way more important than the money to not allow this change to happen. I mean, besides ignoring the historic preservation element, I don't know if they're lying, disingenuous. They gave you a different plan, and then they came up with another one without even consulting the town. I think that's also a bad precedent. So I strongly urge the commission, whichever commission decides or both, to not accept this amended plan. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anything else? Any other public comment? All right, do we have a presentation of any sort, or we're going to go right to this new business? All right, so we're closing public comment and new business amendment to the approved design plan for the newsstand. Discuss, consider, and act upon an amendment to the approved design plan for the newsstand located at 909, 911 Main Street, Clarkdale. Applicant 909 Main Street LLC, agent Rennie Radosia. All right, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission and Historic Preservation Commission, members of the public. Before you, you have a proposed amendment to the approved newsstand design. Can we go to the next slide, Gus? Or do I have it? Thank you. So just for a brief history of what's transpired here, this plan was previously approved in June of 2022 by the Design Review Board and Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission had just been formed at that time, so we included them. But the decision was really up to the Design Review Board. Since that time, the Design Review Board responsibilities have been assigned to the Planning Commission. And so that is why the Planning Commission is hearing this item this evening. The Design Review Board at that time found that this plan was in conformance with the Central Business District Focus Area Plan and the Arts and Entertainment Overlay District. And it was in conformance with the underlying zoning of Central Business and the general plan designation also of the Central Business District. At that time, there was no historic preservation ordinance. Okay, next, Gus. Again, this was approved prior to the implementation of the historic preservation ordinance, and this property owner has not elected to participate in the historic preservation ordinance / district as that has been created. So the historic preservation district that is subject to the ordinance is an opt-in. It's an overlay district, and it's an opt-in, which means the property owner has to elect to participate. That was not an option at the time that this was initially heard, and now that it is an option, they have not opted to participate in the historic preservation district. Okay, Gus, let's go to the next slide. So this is the pre-development view of the newsstand. We're all pretty familiar with it. On the left hand is the two commercial bays, and then on the right-hand side is the actual newsstand bar. You can see at that time, half the windows were closed off with plywood and painted blue. Next. This is the rendering that was approved in 2022 of the facade of the building and showing the windows that were proposed at that time, which were identical to the windows that are currently in place at the before the development was undertaken. And then this is the proposed revision. So you can see that the two retail bays are staying, they're retaining the historic windows there, and the only proposed change is to the windows in the actual newsstand bar portion of the structure. I want to take a minute and talk a little bit about staff's recommendation in this instance. This is a difficult decision. Typically, and I can tell you from experience that if this were a tax credited project through the Secretary of Interior, it would be, the windows would be crucial to that approval. They really look at windows hard. However, this is not that kind of project. This is not taking advantage, at least not to my knowledge. We've received nothing from SHPO and nothing from the Secretary of Interior regarding any changes made to this window, to these windows. As soon as it was brought to staff's attention, staff reached out to the applicant, Rennie, who is here this evening, and he apologized profusely. It was purely unintentional. They just didn't even think about letting the town know that they had substituted these windows for the original windows that were in the original approval from 2022. So this was not malicious. This was not something that they're not trying to pull a fast one. This was simply something that they made the switch and didn't even think about letting us know about it until the windows appeared in the building. That the applicant is here. He is ready to answer any questions that you may have. I'm also ready to answer any questions that you may have about this project. Yes, sir. Wait. Proposed reservation, that's the last one. I'm sorry, go ahead. So like I said, the staff's recommendation that the windows are an important focus of historic preservation and adaptive reuse of historic properties. Early in my career, I did a project in the city of Detroit, and the Secretary of Interior at that time, we had to order special windows from Scotland to replace the windows in an old industrial building. They've since loosened up, but that is the kind of attention that they do get. The vitality, however, when we're looking at things like this, especially in this situation where the applicant has not elected to participate in historic preservation district, we also have to weigh equally the vitality of downtown. That's equally important, both in terms of sales tax revenues and continued viability of our historic downtown district. Attracting people downtown is important, and having things to engage them and keep them here is very important. Year over year, we've seen a decline in our tax revenues of $500,000, which is going to precipitate some pretty substantial cuts to things that the town does for the community. And we're going to be down to bare bones, doing what is actually just the basics, because we can't afford to do the things that people would like us to do. So it's vital that we do everything we can do to try to stimulate those sales tax receipts. This also represents a substantial investment in downtown by 901 Main Street LLC, the company, the group that's doing this project. They've literally spent millions of dollars on this project. And so making sure that we get this up and running is critical to that investment. Being able to have a project come through timely and successfully speaks to other investors that may be considering Clarkdale for commercial purposes. And it also helps bolster business for existing businesses that are looking at empty streets during the week. It's very hard. Being in retail is very hard. Being in the restaurant business is very hard. Being in the bar business is very hard, and anything that we can do to help bolster traffic to downtown is something that we need to look seriously at doing. And that is why staff is supporting this substitution of windows. Anything else?
We are at the discuss, consider, and act. And so are there questions?
So I think Chair Guabard from the HPC had questions.
You mentioned the SHPO, so you sent the revised plans?
We have not sent the revised plans to SHPO. They're not looking for any tax credits, so there really wasn't a reason to.
And Marcia?
Our time to get our opinion on things.
Well, this is the
Ask
time-
questions of staff. Like I said, Rennie is here. If you want, Rennie, did you want to add anything? Please
First
do.
would be questions, like, is there anything that's not clear so far?
Oh, anything not good. No, I mean.
I have a
No.
question.
Got it.
And you have a question?
Yes.
All right,
Do we know the manufacturer of the window?
Rennie does. Yes, the applicant does.
Who is it?
Rennie, can you
Okay,
come up?
thank
and-
Good afternoon. Rennie Radocchia, 1550 Abbey Road South, Clarkdale. And the architect for the project is my firm, Architecture Works Green, Inc. We have been here a long time, 51 years, in fact, and have a very high regard for the historic character of the town. Please be assured of that. The way this transpired, we were moving ahead with the project. The owners took on some partners in the middle of the project to help them organize and run the bar and restaurant portion of the project, not the rental units. And when these owners came on board, we had a meeting in my office and we were well into the project. And there was a suggestion at that time that they wanted the ability to open the windows, the storefront windows to the sidewalk tables that'll be out in the front on the sidewalk. Apparently, these owners own businesses, restaurants and bars in Flagstaff, and they have a similar situation, so they wanted to repeat it. I do take some responsibility for the fact that I was, as the discussion went on that day, and we looked at what was available for operable windows on the street side. It was the only choice was 3 windows. The opening was too large to have 2 operable windows open to the sidewalk. It would have interfered with the table set up on the sidewalk. So we went ahead and made the change, and honestly, it went right by me to come back to the town for this change. But more importantly, we were not necessarily aware. Western Windows manufactures all their windows on order. They don't have a stock of windows that you buy out of a catalog. You order them, then they make them. And when these windows showed up on the job and Stephen put them in, we realized that the mullions were fatter than we had anticipated. So 2 things, right? There were 3 windows, there should have been 2, and the mullions are wider than we anticipated. The windows went in, and then immediately we got a call from the town that something was awry and it wasn't in conformance with our approved drawings. So here we are. It took a while to get back to you on this. And that's the backstory to it. I have a thumb drive here. I don't know if Gus wants to put it in, but showing more of, which we all know, more of the streetscape with the variations in windows along Main Street. They're not all historic. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for us. I'm just trying to point out that there are different situations in each building there. To remove the windows is, would be a real hardship. They're expensive but yet we want this project to do what it's intended to do, and that's to bring economic vitality to Main Street, and which I think it will do. The idea of opening the windows, I had heard, and I don't know if this is a true fact, that Craig wanted that as well at the brewery. Maybe someone here knows if that's true or not. It didn't turn out that way for Craig, and I hadn't talked to him about this, so I don't know the backstory there. But here we are. We're asking for a revision to our approved plan back in 2022. And that's another thing. This project has had a difficult time because of the pandemic, and also having contractors show up on the job. And Stephen Tavasi could talk to you about that, but I'm not sure that would be necessary. But it's taken a while, and we're getting to a place where he's getting closer, and interior finishes are starting to happen. So we're here to ask for a revision to the approved window placement. And mind you, if we could have done that in 2 windows as the owner partnership changed and those guys wanted that, I would have done that. And we might not have been here today. I don't think the situation would have been the same versus 3 windows versus 2 windows. So please just keep that in mind, that in order to operate those windows, we needed to have 3 panels.
All right. Thank you, Rennie. If you would just stay for a moment, because where we are is the part of the meeting where people may have questions for you. And I want to see if anyone else has questions before we.
Would it be worth having Gus put this stick in and showing it?
Well,
I don't want to take the commission's time if it's,
so
I don't think it's necessary.
do you think it's useful?
If you would like to do that, we can give it a whirl and see if we can get that up.
I think that the town of Clarkdale, the pieces of the town don't exist alone. The pieces of the town work as a whole. And if you think it's important that we look at the whole of it, if it's a visual that will take 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, I think that's not bad. Would anybody disagree?
I want to see a picture.
Great. Thank you.
Well, what you already have, Ruth, but
Is there something that anybody needs to say? All right, so we had a question here and then a question there.
Yeah, I'd like to just follow up on my initial question. Yes, Western window systems are very good. I'm good with that. Would they allow you to, or would it be operational to go to a smaller mullion on the operable windows and the vertical supports remain the same, so they would not have to be replaced?
when we realized what happened, we talked to them from my office. In order for the weight of those windows, the mullions have to be the dimension that they are. They're tall, and yeah, so there was no opportunity to make them smaller if they were going to be operable. So that was really the crux of the problem, is that there was a strong desire to make them operable, to open the sidewalk to the inside of the building.
All right, thank you. But that's asked and answered. Let's see if Carol, did you have a question, Carol? No,
No, they did not.
thank you.
Because that's kind of the last photo. Is there? Yeah. Can you either scroll back or? I mean, we could go in that direction. Okay.
While you're looking for that, Gus, was there another hand up? Somebody on the HPC had a question?
I don't believe we have one of those.
I don't think it's
No.
necessary.
And we can do that. Some of these photos are the rest of the buildings on Main Street.
Are we ready? Yeah,
So this is the rendering again, so that's a close-up. So let's stay on that if you don't mind. Yeah, I think so that's what was approved. Our door hasn't changed. The bulkhead below the windows hasn't changed. Now, if you go to the next photo, one of the ones that Ruth had, not that one, Gus, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. So this is the way it is today. The bulkhead has been more or less finished. This tieback has been eliminated but you could see it would not have been possible to have operable windows with two panels.
all right, just a moment. There's a hand. Cynthia, did you want to ask a question?
Oh, hi. I'm not sure. I mean,
You have a hand up in the gallery. I know, but I think that's the person who's going to answer it.
So we did the same thing at Connor, Porter Research, Cottonwood, worked on this process. We did the same thing, Historical Society up in Flagstaff, as Ray mentioned. I opened Adrian, designer of that as well.
Could you slow down and enunciate, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
How you doing? Yeah, no problem. Sorry. I do speak very fast. Connor Barrett. Yeah, I live in Cottonwood now, born and raised there. Been around for a long time, graduated from Migos. Doing the business with the Tavasis and trying to bring life back into Clarkdale. And with the accordion doors is what we call them. I did the same thing in Flagstaff up there, right in the downtown area. So I did deal with the Historic Society before that as well. Did the same thing, slightly bigger window, same accordion style. It was a 5-panel actually though. Beautiful if you guys want to like look at something along those lines. It just opens up, kind of draws everybody into the building, really allows for the aesthetics from the outside to come in, brings people in, attracts it. You know, we have beautiful weather here 8 months out of the year. So those will be open much of the time, which is really nice. And just allows for the whole vibe of the restaurant, vibe of the downtown area to expand and really enjoy ourselves and bring life back down into downtown Clarkdale when I was a kid. Is it vital to it? What was that question? Contingent on it, I would say no. It's going to be, yes, it would cost us quite a bit of money, unfortunately. And it's one of those things where they look fantastic, especially open. I think Matthew asked about it earlier. And yeah.
Realize it gets up to 115 degrees.
I was born and raised here. I definitely do understand that. Yeah.
It's not like Flagstaff.
No, I was born and raised here.
One of the things we want to make sure is that everybody in the room can hear the question
Can you
from
hear
the
me?
person asking the question,
So,
one at a
I
time.
lost my train of thought. So it does get really hot here in the summer. I don't know if you'd be able to have those windows open. I understand that we really want to have our downtown revitalized. I'm coming more from the historic preservation aspect of this. Clarkdale is a really special town. There are mining towns, there are company towns. Clarkdale is special.
Oh, my grandfather worked at the cement plant, the Greenwoods, lived right in.
You're okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and one of the things I wanted to say is that one of the special things about this town is the living history here.
Yep, my grandpa lived here for 30 years.
For generations are still here. And I can't think of a better scenario than the Tavashis bringing the newsstand and you
Yes,
bringing
ma'am.
the newsstand back to life.
Absolutely. That's what we're looking to do.
So, this is the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitations and guidelines. And when you're doing a rehab, you know all this, but I'll just say it for, maybe the room. When you're doing a rehab on a historic building, the windows are really important. Probably those windows wouldn't make that building no longer a certified historic building. They don't look like the historic buildings that were there. I understand all the other windows on Main Street are different, but those windows don't look anything like the other buildings on Main Street. And you really have to look at the whole downtown and how they fit into the historic nature of our downtown. So when you're doing a historic rehab, windows are really important. This is what the national standards say about that. One of the few parts of a building serving as both an interior and exterior feature, windows are nearly always an important part of the historic character of a building. In most buildings, windows also comprise a considerable amount of the historic fabric of the wall plane, and thus are deserving of special consideration in the rehab project. You can replace windows when you're doing a rehab, but the recommendations say replacing in kind an entire window using the same sash and pane configuration and other design details. In other words, retention of the same glass to frame ratio, matching the historic reveal, duplication of the frame width, depth, and existing decorative details. What is not recommended is removing a character defining window and replacing it with a new window that does not convey the same visual experience. Those windows look really modern. And I know a lot of people like that aesthetic of the modern juxtaposition with the historic. And it looks like you use that on the back of the building. That's not an issue when you're doing a rehab. The only thing we're concerned about is the facade.
And that's why we left the windows above up there, because we love the historic visual of it
Windows,
up there.
yeah.
We're having the other frames rebuilt right now to replace all the broken ones that are up there. So we can keep that beautiful facade on top of it. We're actually having hand done, replacing all of those. So we can keep that beautiful up top part. Those ones are just they are a little bit more modern.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's going to bring everything together. The R value is much higher than that. So it's going to help with economically.
Okay, can you say that again?
That's how it insulates.
Yeah.
So R value is much higher. So economically it'd be much better when it's 107 outside and the windows are closed.
Yeah.
So that'll help with economically as well.
So, I mean, you can put in double pane windows as long as they look like the historic windows. That's perfectly acceptable. And
I think these are acceptable. They're beautiful. It's one of those things that they're not blue for starters, which is really nice. Yeah, right. Exactly.
I don't know if any of us will miss the blue.
Yeah. So we think it's an upgrade. So I hope you guys do as well.
So, and I really sympathize with the cost
Yeah.
of putting those windows in. But I don't think as a Historic Preservation Commission, I can't support those windows.
No, I understand.
they don't fit the building, they don't fit the block. And I, like everybody else, wants to get business into our downtown area. You know, a lot of people do heritage tourism. They come to towns like this because they want to see the historic buildings.
Yeah,
the
we
way they're
wanted that to
supposed-
happen when they walk by, the windows open, and you have to hear the music, you can hear the vibe. Everybody's in there enjoying pizza, shooting pool, really enjoying themselves. And that's what we were looking to do with these windows, was to really bring everything together, revitalize the downtown area, and bring taxpayer dollars back to Parkdale. Like
All
when I
right,
was a
just
kid.
just a moment.
Sandwich.
Yes, ma'am.
We're getting really away from questions, and there's a lot of comment. And I think if we're going to do comment, Marcia wanted to speak quite a while ago and didn't get a chance.
What
No,
question for me?
I'm not calling you out for that. I'm just saying it may be time to have Marcia say whatever she wants to say if we're taking comments. And were you finished, Cynthia? Did you have more?
Hey, but go ahead, Marcia. I don't want to take up the whole time.
I've been on this commission so long.
Put on your mic.
Very good. I've been on this commission so long that when the newsstand came to us like 25 years ago, I was actually on it. I was on before the blue, and the blue did not get approved on there. I do not know how the blue landed on there. That blue, Rennie told me, that blue was chosen to match pool chalk.
It didn't do a very good job.
I know, it was terrible. So as Ruth's talking about money, during, while we were only design review, I used to get prickly because money was definitely not on the list of what design review things are about. Being now on planning combined with this, then that directs me to look at the mission here. And the mission does talk about economic growth, sustainable growth, planning for a sustainable future, and economic and social resiliency. So I do think that that is part of what we're talking about here today. I am the first person to go crazy about what things look like. This color is good. It doesn't match exactly with those things. I think that would have to be pointed out to me for me to notice. So I actually don't have a big problem with this visually, and I'm looking for anything that I like to go to bars, and I go to Carrie's bar even. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll love to have
Carrie's
you.
I'm a-
Carrie's our neighbor, so she's right across the street.
Member, and I think that what you're doing is going to be really fun. And fun isn't on the list here, but boy, that'd be great if it was.
Thank you.
Yes, I wish the mullions were thinner, but you know, they're not blue, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate that. And that's the whole idea, is to have fun, make it what it used to be. When I was a kid, you'd come downtown, watch the parade like we're about to have, and enjoy yourselves. I was in the parade when I was a kid. So really want to revitalize that.
So is that complete for you? Did you get?
Yeah,
Okay,
be
good.
short.
Now, Cynthia, we left you hanging. Was there something else that you needed to say that is,
So it can be a comment, not a question.
well, that's what we're doing.
Okay,
We went
all
to
right.
comments
And
and here we
so
are.
I'm new on the commission. I went back and I listened to the meeting in May of 2022. And I remember thinking how conscientious that the plan was in terms of preserving the historic character of the newsstand, keeping the clear story windows, keeping the transoms, moving the structures on the top back so they're not visible from the street. There was a request to recess the door, which for practical reasons, it made sense to approve that. It came out in that discussion that those doors were original, and there was a discussion about whether we can reuse them. And that was all really impressive because all of that is in the standards. That's how you do a rehab and still retain the historic character of the facade. And the facade is the only thing we're worried about in terms of maintaining the historic character of the building.
I believe, Rennie, those windows were being replaced either way, correct? Okay, so those windows were being replaced, so they weren't going to be historic no matter what.
No, they were, the replacement was approved, but the original windows on the original architect's drawing look like the historic windows. And that's the point I'm trying to make.
I understand.
So, and I understand what you're saying too.
Thank you.
You know, Clarkdale is special. We've lost things little by little. The mansion burned down, the pool is gone, the junior high is gone, and Clarkdale has worked really hard on historic preservation. We have put a historic commission in place. We have put a historic ordinance in place. We're applying for a certified local government so that we can provide more resources and money for owners of historic buildings. And it's in the strategic plan that we want to focus on historic preservation. So, you know, things get lost little bit by little bit. And maybe this doesn't seem that important. Maybe these windows don't seem that important, but an accumulation of small things like this eventually means that we lose the character of what this town is. And I don't think any of us want to see that happen.
Born and raised here. Yep. So
All right. Is that complete for you now, Cynthia?
Burning.
All right. Now, I think you had your hand up for a while. Yes? Did you? The young woman there in blue. Right there.
We need to finish all of the questions from the boards and commissions.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Just stick around.
So was there anyone else?
Any other questions?
From,
Um,
we have one here and then one back here.
I'll
go ahead.
offer a slightly different perspective.
Is your mic on? Yeah, okay.
Is this better? I'll offer a slightly different perspective on this. I do agree that compromise is necessary for adaptive reuse projects. There are ways to thoughtfully plan for things like windows. And that is often done. It's done in Flagstaff. That is a good example. I think the issue that I have is probably a moot point, which is the compromise has to start at the beginning of the project. This is not by definition a compromise. We're being asked to just sort of rubber stamp this through. Yes, thank you. I think this would be an opportunity for the town and the commission to work with the building owners to come up with something that would actually be a compromise. But I do think looking at the building as a whole, while I agree that the vertical symmetry and the mullions are not right, I think overall the building looks good. I think the project is really thoughtful, and many of the other characteristics that make the building eligible for the register are retained. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is that complete for you now?
I think Commissioner Spence had a comment or a question.
I just want to
Yes.
be sure that I understand. So there's no solution for the historic looking windows that would work because of the space limitations?
they're very heavy because they are double pane and like very high R value. So they're double panes, so they're extremely heavy. So when you do just two panes along that style, they tend to tweak the hinges and alter the like framing of it, and so it's not great.
Okay.
That's why it's put in 3 panels, because it's a little bit lighter, so it's a little bit trailer. I mean, yeah, ready.
Just a quick thing on that. We inquired for the size of the windows, as Connor said, as for the size of the windows, the height, the square footage, they could not manufacture, they would not manufacture two pieces versus 3 because of the size and weight. So it wasn't an option.
Okay, so either the choice is either do it this way or not have windows that open.
Correct. There was no other solution to it. You know, again, I apologize for the fact that we didn't come to you prior to the windows being ordered. And, but to solve the problem that the owners had or the desire that the owners had, this was the option that we were looking at.
And as far as if the windows do not open, that's a big game changer as far as the viability of the business, I would think.
It is, I think.
Yeah, definitely it changed a lot of aspects. It definitely changes the whole vibe of something. It's as opposed to having your front door open and welcoming people into your house as to having the door closed. And then they have to knock, in my mind. How I view it, I saw the alterations from where I was at in Atria in Flagstaff when I designed that. And we had that sliding glass door open right in historic downtown Flagstaff. We put one in, and it definitely, when you open it up, people were just kind of stop and, you know, it just brings people in. It's definitely like a welcome door open, and it makes you want to come in and really feel like
There's
you want
no other window company that would have a solution.
The only other one that I've seen that we kind of looked at was like literally garage door style. So like roll ups, which that definitely would look much, much worse. So,
And then even if they could manufacture out of a different material, two windows, the operation of those would have come so far into the sidewalk that it doesn't work.
Okay.
and I am the partner that changed that. So that's my fault. So I apologize to everybody. That was me coming in a little bit later on the.
All right, now, is that complete for you? Do you have any more?
Nope, that kind of
Those are your
makes
questions.
makes the decision easy for me.
Okay, so here's where we are. Is there anyone else on the, would you like to make sure you have a mic? Okay,
Probably, Rennie, this is for you. So we're talking about two different things. Obviously, there was a pre-approval that had a design element that's been altered. That's one thing. The other is seemingly the aesthetics, where we had a pre-approval that showed an alignment of frames or mullions, whatever you want to call them, where now we have sort of a 3-under-2, if you will, which I actually find somewhat symmetrical. From just an architectural perspective, from an aesthetic perspective, would you, and maybe violation is too strong a word, but a change from that alignment of those muttons to what we now have is 2 mullions under 1 mutton, probably is the correct way to say it. Do you find that in any way in violation of some sort of historical aesthetic? Is it something you wouldn't see in a building of that vintage?
No, I don't have another example of that, but it's certainly, I mean, there's all kinds of variations that have been done historically and modernly. I mean, and so I didn't, when we drew it, when the change first popped up and we drew it, it didn't seem out of place to me because as you just said, there is even though it's a difference below from above, there's still a symmetry in it. One of those mullions isn't a third the space away from the center of the top one. So there is there's a geometry and a logic to it. So that it didn't bother me as an architect. And I didn't think that it was completely out of place. And there's just no way there was just no way to have operable windows with an 1.5
Right.
mullion. It's just not a possibility.
Which I think illustrates something that's bound to come up anytime you're doing any sort of refurbishment or renovation of a historic property. You often have to, for safety and code and other reasons, structural maybe, you often have to deviate from what was used because it simply wouldn't meet those particular standards at the time.
Yeah. I think in my mind, as the architect, the mistake was we didn't catch it, come to you prior to putting them in place. And we could have had all this discussion and rationalized it and worked through it. And possibly, as you mentioned, compromise in some way, but it didn't happen that way.
Right.
So.
All right, is that complete for you, your comment? All right, now Dr. Stein, what?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. And my comment is this, just to restate some points that have been made already this evening. I'm going to start with Mr. Porter, who spoke to us via Zoom. And his concern was that it's setting a precedent. And it's, at this point, the issue is neither historical nor visual for me. It's procedural, and I understand that it's too late to make a change as far as the cost and the implication of the windows and the manufacturing and the installation and the process of renovation or construction. It's also cost prohibitive. I mean, that's been made very clear to all of us. But I'll just say that it's the precedent that's being set. It's the credibility of our process. And having worked in agencies run by the state, the federal government, and the county, I believe you are sincere with your apology, but it concerns me that at this point we're moving forward, asking for forgiveness rather than permission for a change. And I believe that you are sincere, sir. Please, I'm just talking about we're setting a precedent, and it's not. And I'll restate once again, it's not about the historical facade or appearance, and it's not about the visual. It's, for me, my concern is procedural and setting a precedent.
Thank you. Just to respond to you, I had my office where the brewery is for almost 13 years. And architecturally, my front door was painted red. I didn't paint it red. It was painted red when I got it. And then a film company came along and convinced the town at that time that they needed awnings on the buildings to make that film. They wanted a certain look on Main Street. So the town opted for it, and we ended up with awnings on the buildings, for a long time. The front door on that building right now is completely different. It's not historical. I can mention a few things that are on Main Street that aren't historical. And, I'm apologizing as a gentleman to this commission and the board. But I'm not getting down on my knees and begging for forgiveness. So I want you to be clear on that.
Stated twice, if not 3 times, it's not historical and it's not visual. My concern is, and I just felt that it was my obligation to the commission, just to restate, my concern is about procedural and setting a precedent.
And that is my point about setting a precedent, because there have been so many different things that have happened on Main Street over the years that have set precedents that are not historical.
I give up. Thank you, sir.
Anything else from anyone on either commission? Sorry.
And Sharon, I'm a little concerned whether we're still in questions or whether we're in comments, or
We
seem
went
to be a
from
little out of-
questions organically.
Okay. I
to-
don't have questions, I have comments. So
Yeah,
whenever
that's where we are. We're at comments, and we want to make sure everyone on each commission gets a chance to do that. And then we're going to call on the public. And I believe, and maybe you can say something about this, Ruth, we're not debating with the applicant. There's no.
No.
Thank
Right
you.
now, staff and the applicant are taking questions from the commissions.
Comments.
Just questions at this point. At the end, we will take all of the comments. After we've heard from the audience. So let's just stick to the questions now and then go to comments in a little while. Commissioner Snyder, did you have questions?
I do not have questions.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to take questions from the public. Is that comments from the public? Is there anyone in the public who would like to make a comment? We have two hands. Yes, you will please go to the podium. Yep. And then Mike.
I'm Cindy Emmett, and I was a former member of the Historic Preservation Commission. And I guess my main concern is that we are chipping away at our history by allowing these small changes, seemingly small. I think we're just chipping away at what we're so proud of here. Visually, I don't think it fits in with the town. Is there a reason why the windows have to open? Maybe that's a modern trend. I'm not really sure. But it sickens me that we are at this position, and it's a dangerous, dangerous precedent. I would like to ask the window porter, is that you, Mr. Porter? No.
Direct your question to Ruth,
Oh.
please. Staff.
Well, I'm kind of wondering, did you see the original approved plan for the windows?
I'm sorry, it was my error. So you want to know if the town staff saw the original approved plan
Especially to the new partner,
and the design review board? Yes.
especially to the new partner who came in. Was he aware of the original plans that had been deviated from? Oh, okay. That's all I have.
Thanks. And I think it was actually answered earlier. It's probably in this written part of the report is the answer to what you're asking. Now, we had Mike.
Mike Lindner, resident of Clarkdale, historian for life, former member of the Historic Preservation Commission. So I met with Stephen after the windows went in, and he knows that I don't like them, but it really doesn't matter what I like. It doesn't really matter what you guys like, because they're there and they cost $40,000. And if you vote them down, they'll appeal to the council, and we know the council will approve it. It's what we are. However, I do have concerns about our process. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the ordinance that we spent years on and lots of conversations and lots of debate. So one of the things I'd like to say is several times tonight, questions have come up as to whether or not the applicant has opted into the ordinance. They have not, according to Ruth. Apparently, though, during our process, they did not object to the ordinance, like some of the property owners did. And those property owners who did object aren't here tonight. But there was a very long discussion on December 3rd when the Planning Commission reviewed the ordinance. And there's a distinction between the historic district and opting into the ordinance. The historic district is the historic district. Your building is in the historic district. You can opt into the ordinance. You can later opt out, but it's two separate things. So there's no relevance to that. So let's make sure that that's clear. All the buildings in downtown Clarkdale are in the historic district. Throughout our discussions, we debated a lot about whether or not this was opt-in and opt-out. Ultimately, we were forced into an opt-in situation. However, the compensating factor was that the Historic Preservation Commission was supposed to be the design review for all the buildings in the historic district, whether or not the people opted in or opted out. Okay, very clear in the recordings, somewhat clear in the minutes, because the minutes aren't detailed, but you review all the drafts. So you review the draft of the ordinance that came to the design review board, or excuse me, the planning commission in December. That's the way it's stated. There's no discussion about changing it there. When it ultimately came to the town council on January 14th for approval, there's two versions. There's a markup and there's a clean copy. So the markup should reflect any changes that are being proposed in the final meeting from what had been approved by the HPC and had also been approved by planning. The markup clearly states that historic preservation is responsible for design review for buildings in the historic district. However, the clean copy says something different. How did that happen? How did that happen? Wasn't questioned by the council, wasn't mentioned in the staff report, but there's two different versions. Very interesting to me. Somebody needs to clarify how that got in there and why it wasn't discussed in an open meeting. Finally, tonight's schedule. I was puzzled when I was told that this was going to be coming for review and that it was going to be planning commission that did the review, and then it came up that, oh, well, HPC will also be there. Somehow in this background, it states that rather than require two separate meetings in front of two separate boards, the town council agreed to reallocate design review responsibilities to the PC. Thus, the PC is acting in its new capacity or by participating in this meeting. Again, when did the council make that decision that all design review activities would be done by planning commission? So there's some inconsistencies. It's not going to change the outcome of tonight's meeting, but these are the things that need to be clear and transparent and understood by all.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, please.
Don't gimp up here. My name is Greg Judy. I live at 1108 Main. And first off, Renee, we all know, was a very honorable person. I just wanted to say that in his behalf. The thing I'm only bringing up is I was listening to some of the argument about having the need for these open windows. And I think the gentleman who's, I'm sorry to know you, but I know you've lived here. Said that it's a great way to draw in street traffic. I believe that's kind of what you're thinking of. My question is, what street traffic? That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else who has questions or comments? Ruth, you're going to. Thank you all for everything you had to ask and say.
Thank you. I do want to respond to a couple of the issues that were raised with respect to these windows and some of the comments that we've heard. Commissioner Stein brought up the process, and this is the unfortunate situation that we're in, is that we have an architect who forgot to let the town know. It is way less than ideal. This is not the way that we like to do things. And to be clear, I am always dealing with people who think it's a better idea to ask for forgiveness than permission. This is not an instance where someone intentionally did something when staff contacted the architect It was readily apparent to me, and I talk to these people all the time, that he had completely forgotten to reach out to staff. I want to be abundantly clear that at no time have I ever gotten pushback or any other staff member from the applicant about, well, it's not a big deal, you can just approve it. It has been nothing but apology after apology for missing this step. Again, it's not ideal that we have to, that we're in this situation. It puts all of us in a very difficult situation to have to consider this after the fact. It's hard on the boards, it's hard on staff. I also wanted to address some of the issues around chipping away at history, the appearance of downtown. Typically, when you look at projects like this, and as the business partner addressed and Commissioner Gobard stated, there is enough that has been retained that these windows are not that significant of an impact to the historic appearance of downtown, and that the economic benefit of having something that is going to attract business to downtown outweighs any visual irregularity that these windows may represent. What Mr. Yadley, is that your correct? GD stated was correct. The purpose of these windows is to attract people downtown, and his comment is correct. What traffic? My office, I look up the street all day, every day, and the lack of traffic is very concerning. The lack of sales tax revenue being generated by a downtown that could be something vibrant and present all sorts of economic activity and benefit to the community while still retaining a considerable amount of its historic integrity is what we really need to be considering here. With respect to the issues raised by Mr. Lidner, the town staff did, I have the actual red line right here that shows in the DocuSign version signed by the mayor and the town attorney and the town clerk, where it states the Historic Preservation Commission shall conduct design review for properties and structures located in the Historic Preservation District that have opted into the Historic Preservation Ordinance District. So this building, this project started before there was an Historic Preservation Commission, before there was, shortly after there was a Historic Preservation Commission. It started before there was an Historic Preservation Ordinance. And they have elected not to opt into the Historic Preservation Ordinance that exists now. There are two historic preservation districts. There is the one that is recognized by the Secretary of Interior and that is on the National Register of Historic Places. There is also this district to which the town's historic preservation ordinance applies. We added the opt-in at the behest of property owners who had concerns about whether or not they would be able to do what they wanted to do with their buildings and not have to go through additional review processes. That is what the town council passed. We were abundantly clear. We worked on this ordinance for 3 years. This is the longest I have ever worked on an ordinance in my career. So I want to be abundantly clear that there was plenty of notice. There was plenty of discussion. This is not something that commission or council did trying to sneak anything through or not being transparent. It would be difficult for us to have had any more transparency than we did in this process and in the process where we eliminated design review to accelerate and speed up the approval processes for these important historic and economic development projects. And with that, I'll go back to thank you.
Thank you. I do have a comment, and it may not be that important to this particular meeting. However, The thing about foot traffic and people being interested in what's going on inside a business or a building is a very different matter on a Wednesday afternoon than it is when we have some sort of event happening in town. We've had a number of events in town where there's a lot of people here, and they walk around and they walk by and they look to see what's interesting. What might I want to come back here for sometime? You walk around the park, there's people visiting from other locations, states, tourists, and increasingly, people are impressed with Clarkdale as it is right now, and many of them will come back. And I think that that's a good sign for the future of the town. That's all. It had nothing to do with this particular meeting, but I thought it was worth pointing out. Now, Carrie, did you ever get to speak?
I'm patiently waiting. I have no problems here. We all get to take our turn. So if we're in the comment phase, I'll just be clear to everybody. We all know that I own a business across the street from them on Main Street. So I am completely in support of what they're doing. It's too bad that we've come to this place where we're having to deal with windows. But what everybody loves about Clarkdale is the historic charm, the personality, the old 100-year-old buildings. The windows don't make or break any of that. Windows, all those windows have to be replaced along Main Street at some point. You can't have historic windows that are 100 years old that don't function. Now what Rennie started, I think, to show us that we really didn't get to see was the zip drive of all the windows on Main Street that have all been replaced and changed. Do these look very modern? Yes. Is Ida right? I know I have a business on Main Street. I open the front door, people come in. If I don't open the front door, I'll have days that strangers don't walk in, but if that door is open, it's inviting and they come in. So I get it. I like the blend of the historic with the new with the historic. I think it gives better life to 100-year-old buildings that by themselves don't have a lot of personality. They're brown, they're plain, and they need to have life added to them. Not to mention the awnings that have been approved and are going over. Those are not anywhere near historic. The Main Street never have awnings other up until the movie theater people came in, and then those awnings just continued to get trashed and weathered and torn and looked ratty and awful on Main Street because nobody kept them up. So my comment is that I'm in support of this, and I don't think that the windows are what make historic Clarkdale historic. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else that has a comment? Cynthia, go ahead.
I have, which I have a feeling of where this is going to go, but I have a suggestion for a compromise if those windows are going to stay in place. And that's a display inside the building or a plaque outside the building explaining that this is not how the building looked originally and these are not the original windows, and to show somehow how the building did look originally with the original windows. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Cynthia. Anyone else have a comment, a question, anything? All right. Thank you all. So where we are, new business. Let's see, we did that. Future agenda items. Do you want to, all right, now, so you want to we're going to have a vote and it's going to be both commissions vote.
Individually?
We have, is that a motion, Dr. Stein?
That's first the HPC vote and whether the HPC approved, or is it all blinded
Each board will vote.
That's going to, because he's going to conduct this.
Well, that begs the question. If the HPC votes and the majority votes in a particular way, is that one vote? And then so say how the vote goes, please.
Each board votes. So you will, the or the planning commission will vote yay or nay, and the historic preservation commission will vote yay or nay.
And is the vote on one motion? Is there one person who's going to make a motion and second it?
For each board, yes.
So it's separate.
So the planning commission, a member of the planning commission will make the motion for the planning commission.
Okay.
And then a member of the historic preservation commission will make the motion for the historic preservation commission.
Got it. Thank you. Would you like to go first?
I move that we vote on the amendment. No, I can't even. I vote that we move on the amendment. I move that we vote to approve the amendment to this, to the amended design plan for the new stand at 911 Main Street.
And, all right. Oh, so you're handling that. I don't do that.
We need a second.
Second.
Jesus.
Okay.
Motion is.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Do you have that for the record, Gus? All right. Do we have a motion from the planning commission?
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment.
Thank you. Do we, and second? All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Was there any dissent? No? All right, it's unanimous, Gus.
May I say one thing? Cynthia, your suggestion of a plaque on the outside of the building of the original look of the facade, the owners would be happy to do that. And do we have to come back to you for an approval of that? So that they would be happy to do that. So just to let you know.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
We still have agenda items.
Oh, you guys do, we don't. Right?
Both will talk about future agenda items.
Oh, future agenda items.
We don't have any future agenda items right now?
Oh, the vote?
No. Are there any future agenda? Staff has no future agenda items at this point. Are there any things that the
only
commission
thing
would
that
like
we
to
have-
discuss?
Yes, the planning commission forwarded a vote for the chairperson from last month to today, and it's now pushed to whatever meeting is next. Would you put that on the agenda?
That is correct. Yes, that will be on the next agenda.
All right, then that's it. Anything else? No. All right, well, if that's complete now.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Great. Do we have a
HPC,
second?
wait. You guys got to wait a minute. HPC, future agenda items. Staff does not have any future agenda items, just the continuation of the signs.
Thank you. Yeah.
I will address our next agenda items and the schedule. Because we've had a lot of meetings that have been up and down, and then this room not being available, we will not be meeting, but we will begin our 2 a month starting July. And in July, we will have the Yavapai Apache Nation Cultural Resource Team present at that meeting. So be prepared to discuss with them and have them lead conversation about their participation in the historic markers. That will be the first meeting in July. Yes. And then we will begin our 2 a months again.
All right, and before we adjourn, a big thank you. I think this has been our first big meeting with both commissions together, and I think it was a good start. Thank you very much.
So Planning Commission will make a motion to adjourn, then Historic Preservation Commission will make a motion to adjourn.
Marcia, do we have a second? Okay, those in favor? Aye. Very good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the HPC. I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Now.